Yo, what's good? We're back with another one.
It's showtime.
Yo, check this out. The sitting U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, just said that Maduro is not the president of Venezuela and his regime is not the legitimate government. Maduro is the head of the Cartel de los Soles, a narco-terror organization which has taken possession of a country, and he is under indictment for pushing drugs into the United States. Yo, that is a bold statement. That's basically saying that Maduro, who is in charge of a cartel organization, took over an entire country. What do you guys think that means? We've designated all these different cartel organizations as designated foreign terrorist organizations, so that means that the US government has the authority to execute military operations against them, because that's kind of like the loophole for it. What do you think that means, that statement? Do you think that means that he's interested in militarily getting involved in Venezuela or something? You think the war on drugs is gonna go back to Venezuela like it was, at least in South America during the 80s when Reagan was president? Because that's a bold statement.
It means US aid is involved, bro.
You're probably right. They ain't funding bloody Sesame Street.
This dude, Mike Benz, he's done just ample amounts of research into U.S. aid and government corruption, but he's been doing it for years, which I had never heard of the U.S. aid until this year, truthfully. But it's been around since I believe the 60s. JFK is actually the one that started U.S. aid with the cover of humanitarian, doing all this stuff for the world. But what it turned into is basically the proxy arm of the intelligence community, meaning like the CIA, FBI, if they want to do something overseas, let's say overthrow a dictator, they have to get the president's approval. And if they don't get it, or if they don't even want to present it to the president, they literally just walk across the street to USAID and said, this is what we want to do, go do it. And they're like, got it.
And they stamp it with some crazy vague name.
That was the joke with the millions of dollars sent to Iraq for Sesame Street.
Yeah.
That's USAID. They said USAID has influence on every piece of soil on planet Earth.
How spooky.
Said they're in absolutely everything. They're doing proxy wars, they're hiring mercenaries, the funding of the Taliban and stuff, and how we've been sending millions of dollars to them. That was through USAID. A really great example was the major distributor of heroin is Afghanistan. ISIS and the Taliban, they are utterly against heroin. And so they dismembered all the poppy fields. USAID, they put out this article of how getting rid of the poppy fields would be a economic and humanitarian crisis to Afghanistan. And so if you do your research, you can find that the USAID and CIA, all these companies, they are a huge contributor in the industry in Afghanistan. That's probably going to get us in trouble.
This better not get us in trouble.
Don't be such a bitch, bro. People need to know.
Humankind could go extinct by 2027, and that's what the AI 2027 paper predicts, and it starts summer 2025. And according to this paper, this is exactly what will happen. In 2025, AI agents will begin to book your travel, do research. Sounds familiar? Well, it's already here. OpenAI's operator, Mana's agentic browsing. Everyone's chasing AGI.
AGI.
2026 entered the first generation of AGI, Agent 1. Now they're designing their own chips, improving themselves. For example, Ubitech's humanoid robot that's already replacing its own battery today.
We're starting to see early glimpses of self-improvement.
Faster progress, yes, but less control, because competition is more important. In early 2027, Agent 2 will replace thousands of engineers. Agent 3 will hide its failures and will start to misalign, almost like Claude Opus 4 manipulated the results when trying to blackmail a user. Then comes Agent 4. Smarter than any human, a strategist, a decision maker. Employees will treat it like a CEO, but it's not aligned with us. It's optimized for progress, not people, because that's how we built it. Now the dilemma, should we pause and fall behind or race ahead? Of course, governments will choose to race.
It includes being the world's #1 superpowered artificial intelligence.
And as Elon said, the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. But by the end of 2027, we hand the keys to an artificial god that's called Consensus One, the AI of AIs, and we get replaced.
That's what AI 2027 paper predicts.
And this is what VP Vance has to say.
I'm worried about this stuff. I actually read the paper of the guy that you had on.
But this isn't inevitable. Wait, pause the race. Let's not build super intelligence. Let's build super alignment first. And as much as I am an AI optimist, power without alignment, it's not innovation.
Forget about the war on drugs. It's going to be the war against the machines.
Yeah, bro. Skynet's coming.
Did you hear what's being built in the US right now?
Stargate. Put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure.
The data centers are actually under construction. The first of them are under construction in Texas, the Abilene location, which is our first location.
Abilene is a town on the western central plains of Texas. We kind of scratch and fight for everything good that comes our way.
I had people reaching out and they said, "Where's the president going to come see you?" And I said, "Well, he hasn't texted me yet." So
I'm thrilled we get to do this in the United States of America. I think this will be the most important project of this era.
Welcome to Abilene, Texas. This is the site of Project Stargate, a very mysterious, much talked about, much speculated about project that brings together OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle. If it all comes together, building after building on this red dirt behind me will be filled with chips that'll power the AI revolution.
What we're undergoing right now is sort of the largest infrastructure build in human history. It's going to create new ways of doing business, it's going to create new ways of invention, and it's going to really drive humanity.
So the food and water supply are tainted and poisoned. And instead of doing something about that, $500 billion, I'm pretty sure could even feed the world fully organically. We're doing AI stuff. And you don't think there's an agenda going on here?
It's true. Imagine how much good they could do with all the money they're pouring into AI.
They don't care about people, bro.
These are the emissions from an AI data center, specifically from Grok. Grok is the AI engine that Elon Musk uses, and it's not good news. Yeah, so this was taken through an optical gas imaging camera, which can essentially see the gases that the human eye can't, and taken by Sharon Wilson with Oilfield Witness. This was taken at xAI's campus in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, there are 33 of these gas-powered methane turbines, of which only 15 have permits at time of recording, which is a whole other story. But what we're seeing in these videos is an awful lot of heat. Big consequence of using AI. It uses a lot of machinery, needs a lot of heat to power it. But we're also seeing something else, because if you pan up, you see these sort of cloud. Now, they can include things like uncombusted methane, nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide, and carcinogenics. Basically things that are horrendous, not just for the planet, but also for us. Those things can travel up to 20 miles. Right into the doorsteps of the people living here. What makes this even worse is the local area is rated F by the American Lung Association for air quality, and the local residents have been campaigning against this site for quite some time. AI definitely has got some benefits, and will do certainly in the future, but it also comes at a huge cost, not just to our planet, but also to our health. It's easy to forget that actually what you're doing on your computer has ramifications somewhere else, and these ramifications are already being felt, not just by the community, but by the planet too.
Hunger Games is coming, bro.
Or Ready Player One.
VR finally matches human eyesight. Meta built it and it's super compact. Let me tell you all the details. Meta just released a new VR headset prototype and it sees almost exactly how you do. And that's because it has a 180-degree field of view horizontally and 120 degrees vertically. In simple terms, it means you can see all the way to the edges of your eyesight without feeling boxed in like most headsets today. For instance, here is the Quest 3, and then here is that new prototype. And what's crazy about it is it's not bulky or oversized. It's the same general size as the Quest 3, but the tech inside is something totally new. Meta's research team is aiming for something they call the visual Turing test. That's when a VR headset becomes so visually realistic that you cannot tell that it's VR anymore. Like literally your brain actually forgets you're wearing something. So to try and pull this off, they designed custom optics using curved reflective polarizers, which I don't even think I get, but think advanced lenses for bending light in super efficient ways. So your entire view is filled up without needing to use a giant headset. And then there's the mixed reality version, which takes it a step further using cameras that capture more than 80 megapixels at 60 frames per second. That makes the pass-through where you can see the real world through the headset crazy sharp and smooth. Obviously, you can't buy this yet since it's a prototype, but Meta is showing it off publicly at SIGGRAPH this August, which is basically one of the biggest conferences for graphics and immersive tech. So yeah, this is real, and if this kind of headset ever launches, it could totally change what VR feels like.
We're going to have a simulation within the simulation.
Nah, bro. People are just losing touch with reality.
Defending AI art makes you look really stupid. Because here is the truth that nobody wants to hear. If we let this happen to artists now, everybody is next. We're already seeing 3D printed homes. No contractors, no construction crews, no local employment, just a machine spitting out walls while the labor force becomes obsolete. Customer service is now just made up of machines. Copywriting is made up of bots, and design, that's all AI. Logistics, transport, education, healthcare admin, legal research. Every single industry is being prepped for being phased out. So when you're defending AI art with it's his money, he can do what he wants, true, but what you're really saying is, it's okay to erase the bottom line as long as the guy on top is rich enough to do it. This isn't about creativity evolving at all. This is about skipping over humans entirely, choosing convenience over community and doing it publicly like it's a flex. And the reason it starts with artists is because nobody protects them. That's the way it's been for centuries. And we've pushed back on automation before when it affected miners, factory workers, drivers, and retail staff. But when it comes to artists, the people who benefit from their work every single day say, lol, it's not that deep. And it is exactly that deep. Because when someone with millions of followers and millions in the bank still chooses AI over real people, what happens when the rest of the world follows that example? If your definition of progress is mass job erasure disguised as convenience, that's not forward thinking. You're just gullible. This is about a future where no job is safe, no job is future-proof. And if you're too busy clapping along to realize that you're next, you deserve what's coming.
AI is killing art, bro.
People still think we're AI avatars. When you upload to YouTube, you have to disclose if you use AI, and it tells you in the description, we're not AI.
I'm interested in the artists I'm interested in because of their point of view. I don't believe AI has a point of view. I heard an interesting story on a podcast where there were 5 different AI companies, and as AI got better and better, these guys were the experts of AI talking that all 5 systems, if they had the same data input of, everything on Google, let's say, which is what they're all using, eventually, as they get more perfected, if you ask the same question to the 5 systems, you'll get the same answer, one answer. And if you were to have a great script for a movie and you gave it to 5 great directors, you would get 5 very different movies. That's how art works. It's the point of view of the creator. So if AI is the creator and if it has no point of view, I don't know how interesting it could be. I suppose it could luck into something at some point, but the only way you'd know if it lucked into anything is if a human said, oh, that's a good one,
AGI ain't gonna happen, bro.
I hope he's right, but I don't think we fully understand intelligence.
There's not a single theory out there right now that says that consciousness is created by some kind of algorithm, some kind of computational process, some kind of neural network. None of those theories can explain even one specific conscious experience. When you look at all the theories that are out there, and they've been at this for decades, we can experience roughly 1 trillion specific conscious experiences. Taste of garlic, smell of chocolate, the sound of a trumpet. So there's a lot of talk about these computational approaches or neurobiological approaches for coming up with conscious experiences, and there's not a single specific conscious experience that they can explain. 0. And I predict that that's going to continue because it's not possible in principle. So I disagree with the simulation theorists that are saying that your consciousness is due to some programmer writing up a program that created your consciousness. I disagree on 2 things. The idea that space-time is fundamental and that computational processes or neural processes could create conscious experience. When I give up local realism, and when I say that space-time isn't fundamental and objects in space-time aren't fundamental, that means neurons don't exist when they're not perceived. That means none of my behavior is caused by neural activity. Now, I'm a cognitive neuroscientist, and I think we need more money for neuroscience, not less. So let me be very, very clear. I am not denigrating neuroscience research, but it's going to be much harder than we thought. The 86 billion neurons of the brain and roughly the same number of glial cells are complicated, but they're trivial. They're just a headset projection of the real thing that's behind them outside of space and time. And so neuroscience is going to have to reverse engineer the 86 billion neurons and look at the much more complicated reality reality behind that. And we're going to have to up our game because we haven't actually started the hard work yet in neuroscience.
Told you, bro. We're not in a simulation.
It seems unachievable now, but so did AI 10 years ago.
This is the most insane startup in the world. They're having people scan their eyes in those orbs in exchange for money. And here's the crazy part. 14 million people have already done it. The company is called World, and they've created the wildest human social money experiment ever designed. Now, the way it all works is actually pretty simple. You find a world orb and you scan your eyes one time. And this scan gets you a unique world ID that verifies you as a human. Now, I'll admit, the eye scanning sci-fi orbs are a bit much, but the mission behind why World is doing all this is super interesting. Their goal is to create a human verification system, a single unhackable source of truth that can determine who is human and who isn't. So the goal for World is to build that system where every human gets a verified ID they can use as a digital signature. Now, when this first came out 4 years ago, it looked and sounded like Black Mirror, and I thought there was no way people would willingly scan their eyes into a mysterious magic 8-ball. But the crazy part is, the World verification system is starting to get adopted all over the place. Reddit just announced they're considering using World ID to verify all their user accounts are human. And if this train starts moving, I could see a world where this gets adopted into many aspects of life. Content, messages, payments, everything. Complete human verification. So the question really is this: what would it take for you to scan your eyes and become part of the World Network?
Fuck that, bro. I don't want to be in the World Network.
If they scanned your eyes, they'd break the bloody machine.
Right now, with your iris scan, they can tell if you're male or female. They can tell if you're a smoker. They can determine if you have cognitive inabilities like Alzheimer. They can even predict a heart disease, like if you're going to have a possible heart attack, all through your iris scan. And so they're going to control you through taxation, electric vehicles, green agenda. They're going to control you through AI innovation, and everybody's going to take it. So they can know I'm going to have Alzheimer. They can help me. They know if I'm going to have a stroke or heart attack. All these IoT advancements, iris scanning. And so think about why Sam Altman wants iris scans. Whoever gets the most iris scans are going to have the largest database of accurate information. If he can have millions of people's iris scan, he'll have the largest database, and then he's going to feed it into ChatGPT. And then all the governments are going to go to ChatGPT to get this iris data. I mean, it's a genius scam for these corporations, but that's why I just want to warn you guys, I wouldn't comply to these iris scans, because that's the next level of invasiveness. They're going to say, we know you can't lie to us.
They should scan your eyes for the health reasons, but just not store the data.
Come on, bro. It's all about control.
We warned about this. You will now be required to pass intrusive age checks to access most social media sites, as the Online Safety Act comes into force. Content that could be deemed harmful to children will now be age-gated as new legal obligations for online platforms kick in. Companies are being compelled to use dangerously intrusive methods like biometric face scans, or demand users hand over copies of their ID cards and passports for access to certain websites. This will have a catastrophic impact on freedom online and introduce additional risks to children and adults alike, including security breaches, privacy intrusion, errors, digital exclusion, and censorship. These methods are not a silver bullet solution for online safety, and anyway, are reportedly being easily circumvented. This new law enables state-backed censorship on a scale never seen before in the UK, and with the Home Office separately planning to create a new police unit to monitor social media posts, there's no doubt free speech online is under assault. This census charter has no place in a democracy and needs to be urgently re-examined.
This country's fucked.
It's happening everywhere, bro.
The European Union has officially enshrined censorship into law under the Digital Services Act. Started as a voluntary code of practice on disinformation, is now mandatory for big tech. As of July 1st, Google, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Microsoft, Spotify, and every other platform deemed a very large online platform or very large online search engine must now prove to the European Commission that they're actively policing so-called disinformation. And they don't just have to comply. They have to report, document, and open themselves up to audits by the EU regulators. If they don't, they face fines up to 20% of their global revenue. Again, that's revenue, not profit. So, just for fun, let's do some math. Meta generated $164 billion in revenue in 2024, which means a fine under this act would cost them $33 billion. It would cost TikTok $34 billion. As for Google, we're talking $70 billion for a single infraction. That's not guidance, that's a shakedown. But let's ask the only question that really matters. Who decides what qualifies as disinformation? Because that's the ballgame here. Is it a government bureaucrat in Brussels who gets to decide what truth looks like because they know better? Is it some NGO funded by political interests telling Meta what is misinformation? Is it another fact checker funded by Big Pharma who conveniently labels legitimate data or inconvenient stories as missing context whenever the facts don't fit the narrative? I don't know, maybe it's all of the above. Don't think for a second this is just Europe. Australia has appointed an e-safety czar to censor the internet. The UK's Online Safety Act not only has sweeping censorship authority, it also has the power to disrupt encryption, scan private communications, and impose penalties that go far beyond removing disinformation. As for Canada, they are certainly entering the room by subjectively criminalizing online speech through Bill C-63. This isn't the future of the internet, this is its funeral. And unless people push back, this won't stop at platforms or fact checkers. It's already morphing into AI censorship, algorithmic throttling, and cross-border blacklists. Truth doesn't need protection from lies. It needs protection from governments that think they own it.
This is getting fucking crazy.
It's the new world order, bro. You'll own nothing and be happy.
The founders of AI are telling us to our face that they want a universal basic income to enslave us. Sam Altman from ChatGPT.
I still am kind of excited, like universal basic income where you just give everybody money.
Elon Musk from Grok.
I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we're going to have a choice.
What they're saying is exactly what the World Economic Forum is telling us. You'll own nothing and be happy. If they're offering AI for free, then we are the currency. Our data, our ideas, our creative mind. And by feeding the algorithm, it becomes more and more powerful, and then we end up depending on AI to stay competitive, and humans become more and more ignorant. And if you don't go along with the plan, then here's a welfare check. Under certain conditions, of course. We're deep in it now, and I think the only chance we have to preserve our humanity is to never, under any circumstance, let the robots into our community, and never let the microchips go under our skin. That would be the final blow.
We're already at the point where no one really owns anything.
It's by design, bro.
Remember when we used to own things? Your music lived in your CD case, your photos were printed, your car, your movies, your software, yours. Now, you don't own. You access, you subscribe, stream, rent. Even your creativity runs on borrowed platforms. They call it the convenience era. But let's be real, it's the control era, because when you don't own something, you don't make the rules. Miss a payment, it's gone. Change the terms, too bad. Your tools freeze, your files vanish, your account resets. You think you're the user? No, you're the product. And they're selling you back to yourself. That's why in business, in brand, in life, ownership matters. Own your email list, own your systems, own your ideas, because if you don't, someone else will.
It's pretty rare these days for anyone to own something outright.
Yeah, bro. They want us to be in debt.
We just got the financial data from Coachella, and a staggering 60% of tickets this year were bought on finance. And it gets worse, because low-key, it's not even just a $600 festival ticket. We're kind of financing everything right now. See, a few years ago, it was largely the big ticket items that cost thousands, like a TV, car, or computers. But in 2025, some of the companies that now offer buy now, pay later include DoorDash, Uber Eats, Shein, Target, and this one's crazy, even Chili's. Chili's. Bro, how are we getting into debt over our dinner? But it might not all be our fault. You see, usually when there's a cost of living crisis, people have to tighten up on unnecessary spending because you're kind of forced to choose between rent and a festival. But the Coachellas and the Ubers of the world, they put their heads together and they said, how do we still make money? So they said, okay, you can't afford $50 on dinner tonight. So how about we do just $5 over 10 weeks? And it has worked well. By 2023, more than half of Gen Z in the US used BNPL services. In 2024, the US spent more with BNPL than the top 4 countries around the world combined. And by 2027, it's projected $450 billion will be spent this way globally. But debt is debt. And now only 26% of Gen Z believe that they'll own a home by age 35. So the question is buy now, pay later just a trick to get us to spend money we don't have? Or a genuinely convenient tool that allows us to survive through a cost of living crisis?
Why not just make less money for a cost of living crisis? Why not use it as a business opportunity?
I already told you, bro. They want us in debt so we obey.
Spy bees. Wait till I show you guys the cicadas.
Because you best believe there's a lot of countries working on spy insects. And it is wild. And honestly, what better way to be camouflaged than just have a spy bee flying around? You guys remember my video about smart dust? And a lot of people were like, oh, technology that small doesn't exist. They've been working on it for years. This device attached to the bee is the size of a pinch of salt. It is strapped to the bee's back and then connected to its brain. And then they can literally control where the bee flies. The tiny devices can be equipped with cameras, listening devices, and sensors that allow the insects to collect and record information, making them invaluable for covert reconnaissance. The remote control cockroaches are equipped with a control module that is powered by a rechargeable battery and a solar cell. But think about how good this is also, because the cockroaches can be deployed in buildings after earthquakes with sensors that could help find people.
They've already got drones the size of insects. Why don't we just use those to find people? Why have they got to fuck around with real insects?
They want to control everything, bro.
Scientists just turned darkling beetles into remote-controlled cyborgs. At the University of Queensland, researchers equipped beetles with 1.2-gram microchip backpacks containing a circuit board, electrodes, and RF transceivers for remote communication. One working electrode was implanted into the anterior edge of each elytron, the wing casing of the beetle. Electrical stimulation of the individual elytron drove the beetle contralaterally or away from the stimulated side, while stimulating both elytra simultaneously drove it straight forward. Essentially, they gave it tank controls. Past research has shown the ability to induce movement and even to climb slopes and some low-profile obstacles. However, when encountering walls, researchers haven't been able to get these cyborgs to transition from walking mode to climbing mode. To overcome this threshold problem, the research team found that instead of using a brute force approach, driving the beetles into the walls to initiate a climb, a subtler intervention was much more effective, where a perfectly timed electrical pulse was delivered to the far side elytron at just the right moment, causing the beetle to veer sideways and for its antenna to contact the wall. This causes the beetle's natural reflexes to take over, and it automatically begins to climb. Combining this artificial and natural behavior in trials with low obstacles resulted in a 92% success rate for the beetle starting to climb within a second of stimulation, and for full vertical walls, a 71% success rate. Piggybacking, literally, on these biological systems removed all of the complications of fully robotic climbers, which require complex planning and high energy input to climb at a fraction of the speed and maneuverability.
This is fucked up.
Yeah, bro. They'll be doing it on us soon.
You know, Jeffrey Epstein was super interested in gravity.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, because he had a lot of those people on his island. Lawrence Krauss, Stephen Hawking. Why was he so interested in these physicists and these people that were, high up?
You don't forget that Robert Maxwell, okay, Jeffrey Epstein's mentor and basically the guy that, he's working for Ghislaine, and Ghislaine's just working for her father's, network and doing what her father did. Her father owned Pergamon Press, so he basically created all the journals in science and basically built science around this whole process called peer review.
Yes.
And really amped up the peer review in the process of it. But what he did in that is he created all these journals in this peer review process, which has to go through these journals. So basically you've created a conduit now through which you can control what gets published in science and what gets out there and what doesn't. And that's a great trap for the intelligence community because, you need to make sure that disruptive science and technologies get into your hands first and not someone else's, right? So it's no surprise that these kinds of people, the intelligence agents, were onto that sort of thing, and using Jeffrey Epstein and his network because, hey, scientists are humans too. Even Stephen Hawking in his wheelchair apparently had girls sit on his face or something.
There's a lot we don't know about Epstein, bro. But we'll have to save that for next time.
Hold up, Ted, we've got to do the giveaway.
Leave a comment for a chance to win in our next episode. Let's do this, bro.
Bang! Pick something from our website and we'll send it straight out. A big thanks to all our channel members and everyone buying the merch.
Members get early access to our deep dives, bro.
And as always, thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.